What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of The Remote Real Estate Investor. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Devin Redmond, and he's going to be talking to us today. Actually, we're both going to be talking to you all today about mentorship, getting some coaching, how we kind of got our start in the real estate space and how it's impacted our trajectory going forward. So let's get into it. Devin, what's going on, man? Good to see you.
Hey, Michael. How are you?
Good, but not as good as you. You're out in Hawaii, right?
I am at the moment. Yeah, I've got a few rental properties here. So I've been here almost 2 weeks now, doing some renovations, and I've got a vacancy that I just leased up, found what I think is going to be a great tenant. So going well so far. And every once in a while, I get to the beach and work on the tan too.
Talk about aligning incentives, man. Get to invest in rental properties in Hawaii and then go there. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Devin, let's chat today about how you kind of got guided in your real estate investing journey. Because I had a personal mentor of mine, and I'll share a little bit about that. But I'm curious, did you have someone in your world, in your sphere of influence, that was like really shaped how you became the investor you are today?
Yeah, I would say there's not necessarily one person in particular, but my first job after business school, this is going back 15 years now, was in the commercial real estate world.
You don't have to date yourself. No one was
What's
asking. I said, you don't have to date yourself. No one's asking.
Yeah, I was a child prodigy. I went to business school at 15, so. No, just kidding. It was a while ago now, but I worked for a big office developer, owner, investor. And so there was, a group of senior folks there who had been in the business, up to 30 years and had kind of seen a lot of cycles. And so I really learned the business from them, how to analyze deals, how to talk to investors and get them excited about investing with you without overselling, right? So there was kind of that balance always to try to find. I think most importantly, what I learned from doing both acquisitions and asset management after the fact was that, on the day you close, that's great. You did a bunch of analysis, your model looks beautiful. It all goes out the window the day you close, right? And you start hearing from actual tenants as to what the real deal is at the property.
Right.
Things start to break. You have to deal with stuff. The market changes underneath you. So all those things start happening in a very real sense once you actually own the property. So, that was something I learned very, very quickly, very early through both experience and from working with this group of real estate folks that had been around a while.
Oh, it's such a good takeaway. And how cool that you got to like learn and kind of get your teeth cut with other people's money, kind of practicing before you went. And this was all before you went and personally invested, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. At the time, I was still kind of struggling to scrape together a down payment to actually buy something myself.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually was able to do that for a condo in San Francisco that kind of got me started in terms of actually owning something that then became eventually my first rental and 1031 out of that. So yeah, I mean, it's all connected and was kind of happening around the same time.
That's awesome. And have you taken a lot of those lessons learned in those early days and really applied them to your personal investing thesis?
Yeah, I mean, in part, it gives me some perspective with the modeling when you're looking at a new deal.
Yeah.
In that you don't really know what's going to happen, so actually look for opportunities that specifically I think have more potential to go bigger on the upside than negative on the downside. So the sort of like asymmetric opportunity, but it's not always something you can model either, right? So it tends to drive me towards investing in markets that have higher history of appreciation, right, versus the cash flow, which tends to be a little more reliable. So, and that's just kind of like what fits my investor profile now. But I think it's different for everyone too, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're someone that's very focused on things happening the way you expect them to, and you don't like surprises, then maybe you want to focus more on cash flow because that's a more reliable way to think about things.
Yeah, that makes
And
total
this
sense.
is something I've seen in the just investing when I got started in the commercial real estate side in the Bay Area. It's a very volatile market, right? There's huge ups and there's huge downs, and so you can see these great outcomes when you hit the cycle right, and really kind of like tough outcomes when you don't. But my sense is like when the cycle's not working, your losses are less than the big upside when it is working. So it's calculated risk that you got to get comfortable with.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And so, question for you: if the model breaks the day you close, why even bother running the model?
There's a couple reasons. Number one is to at least have a baseline going into it, where you can sort of evaluate how you're doing against some sort of baseline that's a function of your expectations at the time, right? But I think most importantly, it's a great way to set your starting rents, understand where you are on insurance, where you are on some of your big expenses. And it's also a great way to get input from others, right? So if you do have a mentor, if you do have other folks that are investing, you can ask them to kind of take a look at the model and pressure check whether how you're thinking about things is really the right way, or if you're missing something, right?
That makes
and then
sense.
Yeah, and it's also like the modeling has turned me off of a lot of deals. So it often has resulted in a big stop sign for me, because if you can't make the model work, right, then something is off with your pricing, or they're asking too much for the property, or maybe you're not comfortable pushing rents as far as you need to get the return you're looking for on this particular deal.
Yeah.
So like, my computer is littered with a graveyard of models for deals that I didn't do, right? Because the model doesn't support the deal. So I think it's sort of like a minimum threshold that you want to try to get over. Okay, the model works. Now, how do I really feel about this on an emotional level, and what's the upside versus the potential downside? What do you get out of your models?
The proper answer. Duh. No, so I'm exactly like you in that regard, in that it probably helps me steer clear of more bad deals than good deals. And I think you're exactly right that for me, it's hey, this is kind of a worst case scenario type of thing, because I'm super conservative because I come from the insurance industry. So getting a handle and quantifying, okay, how bad could it really get? And if that's stomachable and palatable, like that's great. Awesome. Let's move forward, because it's probably going to be better. So my models tend to project worst case scenario. I think a lot of other people's models tend to project best case scenario. Yeah. And so I would recommend people take the worst case approach. It tends to keep you safer.
Yeah, I think the challenge is like how do you balance that against what the reality of the market right now, where you have to be pretty aggressive to win, right? I find that challenging.
It's extremely challenging. And I think I could very easily, and so many of us could make very easily any deal look bad, right? You just add a couple of heavy expenses and all the deals are no-go. And so you have to get really clever and balance. And we talk a lot about there's the art and science of deal analysis. And this is really kind of the art piece of this, is balancing reality with expectations and possibilities. How bad could it really be? And what's the likelihood of that actually happening?
Right. So it sounds like you sort of tend to model your worst case scenario, but then take it with a grain of salt too, that it's not necessarily how it's going to play out. It's doing some service and getting you comfortable with a downside scenario almost.
Exactly. It helps me. It helps level set me.
Yep.
And, and I had a mentor who just totally reshaped and changed the trajectory of my investing career and frankly my life, because he was so impactful. And so he really helped me kind of get an understanding around this is the type of modeling that makes sense, especially for him. And he shared that with me, which has been super, super impactful.
Yeah, interesting. How did you find that person?
Strangely enough, I found him online on like a mentorship website. It wasn't paid. It was like just people helping people. And I kind of poo-pooed it, but I was in like a super bad place. Like my father had just passed away and I was like, I don't know what to do and spiraling. And so my wife was super instrumental in helping get me on this website. And so I found this guy and I was like, I don't know. And we connected and we just really hit it off. And so it was very much so at the beginning, a mentor-mentee type of relationship where I would ask him questions and this and that. And now we chat regularly and we're friends. It's blossomed into this really cool relationship, but he just totally gave me this incredible advice. I was investing all over the country and he says, Michael, like go get laser focused on one or two markets, hammer them hard and it'll, watch what happens. It'll blow your mind. And that was so counterintuitive to everything I thought I knew about investing and diversification and all this kind of a thing. But I was like, whatever, I'll take a flyer on this. And it's just been unbelievably impactful. So I can't stress, and I'm so thankful that I was able to get connected with him. I can't stress enough how important I think having someone who has been where you're trying to go is, just in life. And it's funny, we talk about, professional athletes and coaches and this sort of thing. If you're going to go to the Olympics, you go get a coach. And no one balks at that. No one questions that. But I think for doing things outside of the sports arena, like in business or even in life, like if someone gets a coach, people kind of are looking at them odd, or that's just not generally as well accepted, I think, outside of the sports, which I don't understand why, because it makes perfect sense. If you're trying to do something better, have someone like guide you.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of, I think for some people it takes, you set your pride aside a little bit, right? And recognize that you don't know everything. You can't do everything on your own. Good at some things that are newer to you, maybe that you're getting into. It absolutely helps to have a guide and a coach.
Yeah.
It can make a big difference.
I'm interested because you got your kind of coaching and mentorship and got paid to do that because that was a job for you. Would you be open to paying for a coach? Kind of turning back the clock a little bit. Do you think paid coaching or paid mentorship is a reasonable thing in this space?
Yeah, absolutely. Getting access to experience, to the right people who can both guide you away from things that aren't going to work out, right? Or that don't have a good potential return, or that are asymmetric to the downside, right? And honestly, like most properties on the market that you can find yourself are overpriced, right? And it's hard to make them work as an investment deal. So I think paying for a coach who can guide you to the right sources, help you understand how to analyze a deal, especially in the beginning. If you're talking about dropping, $30,000 down payment on a rental property, a few $100 to get some expert advice and put yourself on the right track, I think the return is huge on that outlay.
Yeah. It's funny. I agree with you 1,000%. And I think it also applies to a couple other areas like CPAs or tax professionals and attorneys. Like, the cost might be exorbitantly high when you look at a per hour basis, but when you look at what they might be saving you down the road in future headache and future cost, it's like, I'm going to pay an attorney or a tax professional to do these things for me, because if I don't, I'm going to pay out the nose later.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people, I think, undervalue their own time, right? So like, what do you value your own time at? Is it $50 or is it $250? Is it $300, right? And so like, why would you spend 17 hours trying to figure something out on your own online in random forums, where people are posting all kinds of things that are in their own self-interest or just, inexperienced, right? When you can just go to someone who knows what they're talking about for whatever it is, an hour, and get that, get on track quickly.
Yeah. It's so good. And that's it. Like, what do people value their time at? I used to be very anti like hiring people to do stuff around the house. Like, I'm perfectly capable of cleaning. I'm perfectly capable of gardening.
Right.
And then it came down. I was like, oh, I can pay someone for 3 hours to clean my house. And it costs me whatever, 30, 40, $50 an hour. And that frees up my 3 hours to go do something that has a higher dollar per hour value. Like, oh my God. And when I made that mindset shift, I was like, oh, this makes sense. This makes total sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I have the same issue when I'm renovating something. And so like, I can do some electrical, I can do like some minor plumbing, I can do a lot of like trim work and stuff like that. And to some extent I enjoy it. So like I do continue to do that stuff myself, but then I'm also like recognizing that there's kind of a limit to how many hours I can put in on the ground doing that kind of work. And like, there's plenty of people who are faster and worth the money to get it done.
Totally. Well, we like to be totally agnostic on the show. We don't want to make this a Roofstock infomercial. So, Devin, I'm curious where, in your opinion, people can find or get connected with mentors or coaches or experienced professionals. And maybe there are free resources and maybe some paid.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you found a great freebie source. I don't know if that was on a forum or a sort of real estate website. So there's definitely, I think, those types of places where you can, reach out to folks that you see posting or that seem experienced. I don't know necessarily what's in it for them on the other side. So like that can be kind of a challenge. You kind of have to make the right pitch. I think going to your network of friends, other people who are investors. I have a couple of good friends who, own like 20 to 50 kind of turnkey properties, and they're really into that sort of world, right? And they're always happy to chat and hang out and talk. But I've never wanted to make it sort of like a more formal thing necessarily. Yeah. So I think if you want to get like, really on track with a regular recurring kind of coaching session or engagement with a mentor, Roofstock Academy is great for that. So there's a couple of different options that are available. There's a workshop option, which is sort of our more popular tier that comes with a good block of coaching. And then even for more experienced investors, we find that some of them also like the routine of checking in with other investors, getting expert advice. So we're also launching a mastermind program for that. So those are also good options.
Love it. And if you decide that, hey, Roofstock Academy is not the place for you, check out Bigger Pockets, check out Facebook groups. There are investment communities throughout the country. And I think most people are surprised to learn that. And Bigger Pockets has some pretty great resources as well. And like you mentioned,
yeah, they do. I've learned a ton from Bigger Pockets over the years. For more esoteric questions, it could be hard to kind of like figure out what the right answer is or the best answer because there's so many people weighing in. But yeah, it's definitely a great place to start. I think the other challenge right now is like a lot of these meetups and things aren't happening in person. And so like, I think having a regular scheduled sort of Zoom check-in with someone, or a regular group of people who get together and talk, is important. Otherwise it just doesn't seem to happen right now.
Yeah. I have a couple of accountability buddies and we have regularly scheduled check-ins. And we just talk about whatever we're trying to accomplish. And then we ask each other, hey, how did you do the thing you said you were going to do? So that way we have to be accountable to more than just ourselves because it's so easy to be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow or next week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not like running into people or seeing them socially necessarily right now, where a lot of that kind of check-in stuff or accountability would normally happen where someone's going to ask you about that thing you talked about last time when you see them for dinner or drinks or whatever. But yeah, those things aren't happening.
Yeah. Awesome. Devin, well, this was great, man. Thanks for taking the time and sharing a little bit of your story with me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, sounds good. It was fun.
Enjoy Hawaii. I'm sure you will.
Cheers.
Take care. All right, everyone. That was our episode. Big thanks to Devin for coming on. Expect to see a lot more of him going forward. He's going to be a guest coming on pretty regularly. So as always, if you enjoyed the episode, feel free to leave us a rating or a review wherever it is you listen to your episodes. Come check us out at roofstockacademy.com. And as always, we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Happy investing.